contact!
How deep can you plunge into the darkness?
Through the dark veil of space, time.
I wish we could have joined you sooner.
This is Warp Chatter.
Time is short. There is much to be done.
The wait ends now.
All right, welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I think that's going to be my new opening catch line, which is really generic, but you know what? It works. We're all-inclusive, Axel. This is the all-inclusive Warp Chatter podcast coming at you from the Eye of Terror Studios. I am your host, Scuff D. This is the podcast by players for players dedicated to talking about all your Horus Heresy Legions, digital card game, Horus Heresy lore, Warhammer 40,000, everything that encompasses the miasmas of Slaanesh.
Worn off yet?
That's not. You know what? Tonight, I think it has. I think we're onto something a little bit more subtle, a little bit more ubiquitous. There you go. Yes, we're very much more into the oaths of the moment. For tonight, we are talking about the Agents of the Sigillite faction spotlight. This is the last faction spotlight for now on factions. We are going to cover the neutral card pools as we get the chance to in the future. We still have Imperial Army, Mechanicum, and Chaos neutral card pools to cover, but we've got some upcoming stuff over the course of at least the next week, and for the foreseeable future that may delay us getting the entire thing completed. But this is the dedicated faction. So just for a quick forerunner, we have got next week we're doing a episode with the tournament organizers, the World Cup. The World Cup tournament, World Cup 3, Armageddon. That's what I'm going to call it. That's my subtitle. I don't know if that's the subtitle they're going to give it, but the third World Cup, we're going to be talking about with the tournament organizers, getting some of the more details on the format, on the setup, maybe taking a list as far as the registration, which I believe will be complete at that point, what teams are looking like, how many countries have registered. It's been a couple weeks since I looked at the list. The last time I did, it was looking bigger and bigger. It looks like there's going to be quite a few countries that are going to be doing qualifiers, which is exciting.
That's always good to see.
Yes, yeah, because the qualifiers, even though they're not the World Cup, they're part of the World Cup, and that can be something fun to follow to see who is going to make it onto the representative teams. But that is yet to come. Tonight, Agents of the Sigillite. We're going to get to that. We're going to get talking to that. Before we do, we've got a player joining us tonight. MasterWalks is returning to talk with us about the Agents of the Sigillite. Hello, MasterWalks.
Hello. It's been about 4 months since I've been on here, and I've only been on here once, so glad to be back.
Has it been that long?
That was a while ago.
It's got to be close.
Oh, that is a long time. What we were talking about
I'll delve into
Alpha Legion?
Yes, the Alpha Legion.
That was our
podcast.
50th episode spectacular. I believe this is episode 59, or is this episode 60 now?
You last spoke to Mr. Walks.
I think we're episode 60. This is episode 60. So it's been 9 episodes, 9 weeks. That's 2.5 months. It's been a while.
That's a good amount of time.
Okay, wow. It seemed like it was closer, but I mean, still, that's a decent amount of time. Well, in that time, for those who missed that episode, which was an awesome episode, by the way, 50th episode spectacular, but you can go back and check that out if you have access.
I distinctly remember at least one song.
It's great. Are you kidding me? It's epic.
Try to forget.
So if for those who missed that, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I of course consume a lot of Warhammer media. I do the models, the reading, the painting. I got into Heresy Legions. I actually just checked the other day. I've logged in for 320 days, or a little bit more than that because I checked a few days ago.
All right.
So I've been playing just under a year. So relatively new compared to the other people on this podcast. But I just wanted a game that I could use as an outlet that wasn't RTS or turn-based strategy on a computer type thing. A collectible card game is way more up my alley, coming from Magic and stuff.
I mean, that's fine. Magic's good fun.
Yeah, Magic is the gateway drug of collectible card games. And actually, I mean, realistically, I would honestly say it's more than just the gateway drug. It's like your marijuana and your heroin all at one, and meth. Let's just throw it in there. Magic the Gathering is
like meth.
It is the meth. It is the meth. Well, they call it cardboard crack for a reason. It's true. Really do. It's true. I mean, granted, there are worse ones. I suppose you could argue that Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh rival it in terms of the desire to consume. It never ends. There's always going to be Magic. There's always going to be Pokemon. There may always be Legions. I can be hopeful. At the very least, there will be 40K. Yeah, it is.
Especially with the winds are showing there may be 2 new factions coming soon.
I think so. We can talk about that.
Have you seen these leaks?
We talked about the leaks. I'm the one who started the leaks.
Well, yeah, but I mean like the data mine stuff.
I have not broken down the data mines, but I think Parrot put them out like 2 days after I already started the leaks. I haven't. You started hyping up. You were the chaser. I know what's going on, baby. That's right. I know what's going on. I'm down. I'm down with the clown. So I mean, it 4 years for a digital card game has obviously got nothing on Magic the Gathering, but transitioning from that game to this. And there's a lot of players who have. I'm kind of curious. We've never really talked about it. What were your differences, or what would you say expectations-wise, or just obviously like, hey, I play Magic. Magic is what level to you? Would you classify it as the gold standard, or just as a simple, solid B+ card game? And where does Legions fall into there? I mean, I've got my own take on it, but I'm curious to hear others, because there's often a lot of people who come out the gate right away like, this is, Magic Arena. What is it? Arena?
Yeah, Arena.
I think that's the online version, and they come out like, it's got sanctioned tournament play and all this other stuff, and Legends doesn't have that. And sometimes they kind of forget, like, yeah, but it's also got the bankroll of Wizards of the Coast, and this doesn't. And it's also got decades of background and support, and a library that really, even though they make new sets all the time, those core sets and sometimes other cards are just reprints of things that we've already seen. So it's not like
different.
Yeah, so it's not like super hard to do. And when you have a card game and you've got a format that works, you just work that format. But give us your take.
I mean, of course, of the big three, I definitely, of the big three paper card games, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Magic would definitely be at the top, simply due to fairness and ease of accessibility. I know that kind of sounds strange at first, but, and then I'd probably go Pokemon than Yu-Gi-Oh! And Heresy, Legions, I mean, I like it more than Yu-Gi-Oh! And personally, I like it more than Pokemon, playing it anyways, but I mean, when it comes to accessibility, I think Magic is good because I can get stomped on by a $20 deck playing my $1,000 deck or something, and it happens all the time. I mean, it's just very fair, and it's just the way you want to build. But I mean, you can say the same about Legions. I remember seeing 8 months ago, some dude on the Discord went all the way up to Terra with the starter Loken deck and just made some super minor changes to it. So you can get the high level play in Legions with very, very little, similar to Magic. And that's, when talking about Magic, that's excluding, the legacy vintage formats where you have to have $1,000 decks to even, compete. But Commander and Standard and stuff, I mean, you can definitely get competitive for under $100. And yeah, same with Legions. Pokemon is not like that. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is kind of like that. That's just because their cards aren't worth anything. But regardless of the point, I do think Legions is super accessible. I just recently got a friend into it who at first called it a Hearthstone reskin, and then once he started playing it a bit more,
I won't disagree with that, man, because it really, a lot of the mechanics just carry over from Hearthstone, but in actuality, 90% of the mechanics in this game, and even new ones we got later, are direct carryovers from their other card game. They have another one people forget about. In fact, I didn't even know existed until it was pointed out to me.
Draken Lords?
Called, Draken Lords or something like that. I want to call it Drakengard, but I think that's a Japanese game series.
Yeah, Draken Lords. I don't know. It's from Everguild. It's just a solid standalone Everguild game that they are not making new content for, and I don't think they have for years now. But
yeah, it died, so this game can.
Yeah, but I mean, it really has got not all, but a lot of the earlier markers as far as concepts, frontline, Berserk.
I mean, Duplicitous came from it.
Yeah. So it's was a good predecessor, but I think Legions has surpassed it. But I do think, the Hearthstone in space, I've heard that before. It's not a surprise. And I mean, as far as digital,
really a bad thing, though.
Yeah, as far as a digital game, a digital card game that is mobile compatible and not just a PC, having no that you kind of have to take out the interrupt concept of the instant or the interrupt, and instead just my go you go type of situation, that is going to kind of lend to some degree very similar things. I think the fact that they both have got like a main face card that you've got, and again, I've not played Hearthstone at all, but I know some elements from what people have said. A lot
of
mechanics, and then you've got the board, right? The board is not quite the same, but similar.
There's plenty of differences, though, which is why I won't ever call this game a carbon copy, but you can tell the inspiration.
Well, I think a lot of that comes down to the resources. The 1 energy, 2 energy, 3 energy, 4 energy, as a turn goes on. That is exclusively was exclusively Hearthstone. Mm-hmm. Magic, of course, uses land. Yu-Gi-Oh! Uses tributes and cheating stuff out, and Pokemon uses energy. But the instant accumulation turn by turn is kind of what I think a lot of people see the Hearthstone clone from.
Yeah. I think that, and as a card game goes, it is, or as a digital card game, I should say, it's a resource that is easy just to don't even worry about it. Don't worry about these extra resource cards. The resource is just going to happen over time. There was some games. It's been a long time. It's been years before Legions. There was a couple digital card games, Facebook apps. I cannot recall the names of them at all that I played on and off. And they had similar auto resource accumulations, but they were not like energy play. It was kind of like at turn 4, you can play this. At turn 5, you can play this. Limited to 6 plays. So you had 6, and when you hit the top 6, turn 1, if you had a cost of 0 or 1 card, you could play it. Turn 2, 0 to 2, 0 to 3, 0 to 4, 0 to 5. 6 was your high cost. There was nothing above 6 except for a few cards that could have cost lowered. But you also, the play style for those games was different, where there was no face card, there wasn't anything like that. It was really just you played your cards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When there was attacking, attacks were auto resolved, so you didn't choose what you're attacking. These are early years of digital card game. And one reason why I like Legion so much, because it really is a card game. It's not just these cards just play themselves and they resolve. You get to make decisions. You get to make decisions. Who's attacking what? Are you attacking? If you don't want to, do you have to play this card? Aside from, concepts of ramping or combo play, there's a lot more possibility out there. So, having a resource fixed, I don't think is a bad thing, and I don't think there's too many ways, honestly, you could do it before you could just say, it's the same concept as other games, because there's only so many ways to do resources. I've played quite a few, and they all have got a way, one way, shape, or other, that do resources, and some of them work better than others, and some of them just don't even, it just doesn't work out at all.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Every game will try to be unique, and then just absolutely fail.
Yeah, but if that's the one element, that's really that drives it together. You can't just dump a Lornia Hydra turn 1 unless you're Super Sol Tarvitz or something like that. That'd just be crazy. But outside of that, then you get into the factions themselves, and I think they really work to feel, if you know the lore and the factions and what they represent, you get the idea like, oh yeah, I can see what this faction is. It's not just like, oh, red mana burns, blue mana counters, green mana grows. Like, you really have got like, oh yeah, okay, I get it, you know. Alpha Legion's got stuns, but they've got a lot of like, can't attack, it's duplicitous, secret orders, traps. They're a pain in the butt. And then you've got other things like Night Lords, which are a lot more synergistic than they used to be, lowering attack, making it hard for your opponent to respond to their threats. So, yeah.
Yeah, what's nice is a lot of legions, their abilities make sense flavor-wise. And then Sons of Horus burn, which does also make sense flavor-wise, as much as people argue against it.
Yeah.
The entire Sons of Horus mentality is go for the throat, so you burn their warlord.
Yep.
I would say the only exception to this is probably Ultramarines, considering you want to be outnumbered in order to pop off your courage, whereas the Ultramarines have almost always been the largest legion. So it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Asterix were the largest legion. Once the heresy kicks off, they become one of the smallest because they lose so many on Callus. Not the smallest, but they become on par with their brothers, and they were outnumbered on Callus, hence the courage mechanic.
That's fair, but I mean, for the majority of the entire 40k, 30k timeline, I feel like they've always been kind of the most numerous.
They were two of the largest legions because they swallowed up parts of the lost legions. But their mechanic also, if you look at most of their courage cards, 90% of them are from Callus because, well, its acts of courage against impossible odds really fits Ultramarines.
Yeah, it was interesting that they gave them that idea. I think the Ultramarines mission kind of harkens back a little bit more to the other side where you're just like, 500 worlds strong legion and just play a bunch of Ultramarines and keep making Ultramarines. But
yeah,
their day one style was definitely like play from behind. Play with a couple guys that get a little bit beefier, but you're not able to play ahead. You're not able to play, more than your opponent. That's kind of a little different from their faction, at least in terms of their 40k or their pre-heresy representation. Although to be fair, I think after the heresy, what did they do? I mean, I know they did things, but it's not like they were super like crystal clear. Like, oh, these guys had a role, or they just were kind of like. I mean,
they got lucky, is what happened. They didn't lose all their genetic information on Mars, so they were able to pump out a bunch of chapters.
They had
that's really all they got going.
They were lucky enough to have Pharaohs in their system, and Sanguinius and Lionel Johnson show up. Although it's debatable if that was luck to have Lionel Johnson show up or not. But
he kind of put a couple wrenches in a few plans.
Bad luck. But ultimately, it just doesn't feel like, they're there. They have several books written on their side of things, and I think the Underground World is probably the best, moment or stories as far as that, the whole betrayal of Calth. But after that, I feel like they kind of just get, made as, background chaser material. Like, Phil, throw in some Ultramarines,
They're like the word bearers for the loyalists.
Yeah, 100%.
Where you need a filler guy to die in droves because there's a bunch of them. I might be a bit biased because I'm kind of pro word bearer.
No, I don't disagree. I always view you've got the proto. Yeah, the masked good guys, Ultramarines, masked bad guys, word bearers.
And they got to be arch enemies for that reason.
Hey, that makes sense. But we're not talking about the Ultramarines today. We're talking about the Agents of the Sigillite, which actually has got a kind of a diverse card pool.
It actually does.
It's one of those interesting factions, and actually, I personally was really excited about this faction. The idea of the faction, there was a lot of speculation. We talked about it last week in terms of thinking, was this faction going to have Psychers in it? Because you've got Malkador, one of the best, biggest, most powerful Psychers out there.
The third or fourth. I think he's the second strongest Psyker.
Yeah.
Then there's Magnus and Lorgar.
And obviously Big Daddy Emps is above them all. But
yeah.
Yeah, but if you were going to have another Psyker faction, it would have made sense to have
their Proto Grey Knight.
To have them. We didn't get that, but we did get other elements.
Got a couple. Yeah, we got some of the founding members of the Grey Knight.
Yes.
We got Loken in there, who technically declined, but he was going to be one of the founding members. It might still accept. We don't know where the lore goes.
Cerberus. We got Arvida. You got what's his name?
Marin.
No, not Iacton. Marin.
Yep. Iapto is one of the event warlords. We might get him as a 5th. We can talk about that later on when we talk about some speculation for cards that the faction might get.
Also known as Severin, a card that already exists in this game, not to cause confusion.
No, because how dare we have Garro in the faction when he already exists in the Death Guard faction? The agents the agents of the Sigillite faction has got a hodgepodge of Astartes and infantry that have been handpicked by the Sigillite to basically work as the prequel, if you will, for the Inquisition and the Grey Knights. And the Knights Errant are the Space Marines who basically sworn into service for the Sigillite. And you kind of have a mixture of, I don't want to say powerful abilities, but really just kind of like strong support troops. It is a troop-heavy faction. The emphasis is on the troops doing the work for you, which I like. But then on top of that, depending on the warlord that you go with, you can have a warlord that supports the troops in different ways. You've got a warlord who can just be a little bit more mid-range with Rubio. You've got the assassin, who is very good at kind of like, timing when you can lock down your opponent as well as just doing some damage. You've got Malkador himself, which I think has got one of the best abilities for hand knowledge. Consistently throughout the entire game, not only getting hand knowledge, but then also gaining a benefit from it if you have deduced the plays correctly. And then you've also got Yachten Cruz as a frontline supporter for some of the other troops that would benefit from being protected via frontline. It is a troop. It's really kind of I won't say it's a perfect blend of troop and warlord combination, but I think the design for the faction is really evident, even though you may not see it on the surface once you actually look at it. It is a faction that is designed to have your troops do the work, your warlords support the troops that need to be made, and get to a big play. And whatever that big play may be, it's going to depend on how you've built your deck. Will it be the Sigillite's chosen of the Sigillite and buffing that troop? Will it be assassins striking and dealing surprise damage? Will it be seals doing the work? The seal concept, the seal mechanic, is a card type that just exists just for this faction, which we've got to talk about as we get through it. Or will it be kind of ramping and buffing some key troops like the Ganymus? Or throwing down a Sizzle's Chosen on a warded Space Wolf 6/7, or using Arvida to spam and kind of wipe the board with multiple frag grenades, or even Proteus, like ramp and pump Proteus up. Like there's lots of ways to do it. At the end of the day, the lethal usually comes from the troops because that's really how they're built up. Like I have yet to play aside from the early concept for the Astral Incursion or Arvida, I have yet to play a tactic heavy deck for the Sigillite.
The most tactics you'll see are people who really want to fish for seals.
Yeah.
Even then, they're not really dealing damage without the seal itself. So
no, and if you don't have a seals, guess what? Those cards are worthless. It's the seal game. The seal game, you've got a lot of ways to generate it, but some of those ways are kind of it's still a casino, right? Because you don't know what seal you're going to get. The only one that lets you choose a seal, there's one card that lets you choose it, and then if you get Malkador's Reckoning, you're able to choose. But otherwise, it's random.
You're just shit out of luck.
Mm-hmm.
That reminds me of there was right around launch, a lot of players were complaining about the seal strengths, and one person tried to tell me that simply due to the seal's existence, they're the best faction around. But you're not reliably drawing them, and if you are, then buy a lottery ticket at that point, because it's more rare than a trap.
It's reverse traps. You're creating traps in your own deck. Hopefully, you draw them, and
then you just get better versions of pre-existing legendaries.
Yeah, and you get. I mean, I like the fact that the seals are 3 energy legendary cards that are very powerful. Yeah. Like you've got some good stuff. Although I don't, is Seals of the Sisterhood really a legendary card? I don't think it is. It's its own unique.
No, that's the only exemption.
Yeah.
The closest you got to it, there's a couple cards similar in the Sisters of Silence faction that is just like a amalgamation of.
It is a combination of the Cull and Anathema, right?
Yeah, but besides that, that's the only unique one. The rest of them are either exactly the same or a mixture again. Like there's one that's return a card to hand. If it's your own, it becomes free.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of what that's similar to. Kind of. Well, no, I guess that's kind of unique.
Cautious withdrawal.
Yeah, I would say you've got cautious withdrawal, or you've got Ambassador Melgator early, like day 1 Melgator. But the fact that you can,
like a combo benediction for your side and then something else.
Yeah, because you can affect the opponent's cards too, so that does kind of make it a different. You've got the McCragg's Honor, you've got the Irresistible Charisma. And then there's one more, isn't there?
Next card is free.
Yes,
benediction.
Yeah, that's
the survivor.
Yeah.
That's change it to survivor.
So I mean, they're the only one that you could argue is game ending. Is the McCragg's Honor, maybe the Irresistible Charisma, but if they don't have troops, that's a dead card. The Seal of the Sisterhood is definitely always a want to go to because it deals with stealth, it jams everything, it deals with Bastion, but in some games that's not enough, and by the time you get it, it may not matter. So it's I like the seals. I don't have any. And I know this may be full of hot takes, maybe it won't be, but I really have no problem with the faction as a whole. I have no problem with the seals. They are balanced out by the fact of them being random generated, and you have to draw it. Now, you can make an argument that, they always seem to draw it right after they make it. That's possibly true, but you know what? There's also games where you never see a seal, just like when you're playing an opponent who loads your deck with traps, and you never draw a single trap, or you draw every trap. That's every game. There's no way to prove it. And you could play 1,000 games, and I don't think statistically you would be able to show anything more than a very close 50-ish to, plus or minus percentage, because it's just the factors that are involved are not just you go, I go, draw. You've got every time you make a seal, you're shuffling your deck. Every time your opponent has got a card that lets you draw a card, then that throws a different factor in there. Maybe you're putting cards back into your deck with the relics of the past. Yeah, relics of the past to draw 2 cards. So you're increasing the odds of drawing those cards. Or maybe you're playing against an Alpha Legion who's loading your deck with traps, diluting your chance. I mean, there's so many variables in games that you can't say that you're guaranteed to get the seals. I have played many games where I've had like 10 plus seals and I've seen 2 in the game. Even though my deck is loaded, I keep making it bigger and I keep not getting seals. And then I've had other games where it's like, man, I drew the seal first turn after I put it right in there. It was right at the top. That just happens.
Oh, yeah. You can't really bet around it. You can try to force it, but it's still just RNG at the end of the day.
Yeah,
it's the classic thing with RNG. The more random it gets.
Yep, I think that is a balance of the faction, and that's why I don't have a problem with them. Also, to go with that, something else that sometimes people forget about or maybe don't consider with the faction because they get hung up on day 1 release Sigils of the Chosen, which by far is probably one of their best epics. No doubt about it. It's one of their best epics. It's +4/+4 Survivor 3. It's crazy. It's crazy good for 4 energy. It's fantastic. Or is it +3/+3? +3/+3.
For Sigil, it's +3/+3.
+3/+3. It's still crazy good for 4 energy.
Oh, yeah.
But it requires you to either A, have a troop in play that survived that you can throw it on to hit with. So there's setup involved. Or B, you're just taking the risk, putting it on a troop and hoping that they don't have a sabotage so you don't get to take advantage of that. So it requires setup. The faction itself does, for that reason, because that card exists currently, and this could change with new cards added, but currently they do not have a flanking troop. They do not have a fast troop. for those two reasons, because you could combo that, boom, fast attack. Now I've got a fast troop that just hits you for extra. And guess what? It has survivors, so you've got to spend some extra cards on it. They don't have that. All their cards that do stuff tend to have energy cost abilities. So if you are using their abilities to draw cards or buff the stats of a troop or adjacent troops or whatever, you're paying energy, which means you have less energy to use on cards from hand. There's a lot of balance there that's very subtle, but that's why I don't feel it. I don't feel like the faction is broken. I don't think they are. Even
people wanting to complain.
Yeah, even day one. And here's the thing: aside from the hot freshness when they first came out and everybody was playing Iota, which was okay. I don't think Iota was broke. I think it was just the fact that it was new and people hadn't yet adapted strategy. You can still
I'd say, well, the key part with base Iota is we have to remember that was before Keeler was changed.
Yeah, that's true. And Keeler, I think Keeler was a card that I think deserved a change, although I feel like the change that they gave her was a bit too much. But I felt like that was a card that deserved a change because as it was, it's like, yeah, if you don't do something about this card, you're hosed. Because it just gives Warlord, it gives frontline to the Warlord, and then you can never reach it. I don't mind that they changed her, but I think the fact that she was so strong made it like, oh yeah, just Agents of Sigillite is the way to go, and then people forget, like, oh yeah, once that wore off, how many times has, say, Agents of the Sigillite Warlord been in the top 5? Top 3?
I would say top 3 not common, but Iota has a permanent presence.
Right.
Bad thing. Every faction deserves a presence in the top.
Yeah. Malkador has been up there in High Terra before, but I don't think he's ever been.
He has, but he hasn't been positive.
No, and because he's number one, he's banking on that random factor of. I don't think that hand knowledge is to be discounted, but the random factor of generating the seals and drawing them, and also his you have to use him on your turn. You can't attack with him. If you're attacking with him, you're losing. And there has been months dominated by decks like Cambodiaz where that is a matchup that Malkador will lose. He just can't win that. Turn 1, I make turret. Turn 2, you go. You have to kill my turret. Now you are never using your ability because you're always trying to kill my turrets. It's just not a good matchup for Malkador.
Oh, it really isn't. It's not even a good, healthy state of the game.
No, it really. I mean, we could talk about turrets on it. Yeah, a whole different level.
We'll eventually talk about how uninteractive that deck is.
So
we talk about our more loyal boys.
The majority of the agents' cards are just kind of buffed versions of cards in other factions. Like Agents of the Sigillite's Chosen is just a Curse of the Wolfen without the Berserk. Better stats, of course. And I feel like that's almost all of their cards are just better versions of cards in other factions.
My favorite is Malkador's Chosen, I think his name is, like the bodyguards,
the 5/6,
which are just better versions of the honor guards that Ultramarines have.
Yeah. Well,
the personal bodyguards of Gilliman are weaker than a bunch of guardsmen. I find is hilarious.
Or Emperor's Approval is a 6 energy copy of Triumph of Olenor, which is a 10 energy card. It's the exact same. The only difference is, Triumph can be lowered maybe to 0 if you stomach it, but right away, Emperor's Approval, you can be like, here you go. I don't ever see anybody play it because it's 6 energy. There's way more important things to play. But yeah, I think that's the case. There are some good cards that are just better versions of cards that exist in other factions, but because of the way the faction is built and the fact that they don't have the other cards that faction has, that kind of lends to it. There's no pack in the Agents of the Sigillite. There's not any flanking in the Agents of the Sigillite. So the Space Wolf concept is lacking. There
is no actual signature mechanic on troops minus seal. They have no tags on anything.
No, they don't. They use premonition or not precognition. They use that a little bit. They've got some ward, and then there's a lot of buffing, and that's what it comes down to.
They're a lot like the Orphans of War. They're just a hodgepodge, because that's what they were.
Yes.
They're the less unaligned version of the Black Shields.
Well, I think the big thing that they do have that is different from most of the Orphans or the early Orphan plays is the high health. They've got much higher health. like just playing that, was it the 2/3 front line that can, for 1 energy gain, like +1/+2. That's a good.
That's the Malcadors.
Yeah, that's just a good card. And then on top of that, if it survives, you have the chance of throwing the Chosen of the Sigillite to make it even stronger and just attacking with it. And you've got the counterattack that gives precognition to a troop, which makes it increases your chances even further for some of those key troops, whether it's Euphrates Keeler or Prometheus, which also increases.
Prometheus?
Yeah, Prometheus. Terrible movie.
I don't think that's his actual name, but I think that's what it's close to.
But I mean, they just. I can't stress that I don't dislike this faction. I really do like the faction, not because of just like the power, because there's some power when you set up a play. I think more than anything for me, it's the style of play. I like that. Set this up, wait for the payoff, get the payoff, and go. And the payoff can be very good. If you don't have the cards, the payoff isn't worth crap. Covert Operative is a prime example of that. Covert Operative, 3/3, take a look at their hand, which is awesome. Pick a card. As long as my Covert Operative can survive for them to play that card, provided that card isn't a card that kills them, I'm going to do some damage. And then the next turn I have a 3/3 body that I can do something with on top of that. That's cool. Add in other cards that are looking at my opponent's hand. Malcador as a Warlord ability. What's the other one? There's a couple other that like let you peek at the opponent's hand. The Space Wolf, if they play a card, it gets +2/+2. Yeah. Which is a great way to counter their flanking troops. Like, all right, I'll pick your flanker.
So there's a couple that lets you just see the troops in their deck. Too.
Yeah. Look at their deck, the execution force, like just that concept of being one way, not necessarily ahead of them, but knowing what their options are that are currently available to your opponent, and then kind of basing your play on reactively responding to their play. I just like that concept.
That's done well. Faction are very unique.
Some of the cards that are like the direct upgrades are like you just see them played more than the cards that they're based off of. I think of like Arvita is played a lot compared to the Alpha Legion one that kind of does the same thing that nobody ever uses.
Yeah, it's similar, but
a little different.
Well, I think there's a Thousand Sun one that does the same thing, but Dreadnought. But Arvita and Arvita having a 6/7 body doesn't hurt. But yeah, the splash frag rate is nice.
Another good part of the faction is things aren't really understated.
No.
They're properly statted. That's mind-boggling for Legions.
Surprise it can happen. There's some cards in there that are not, like, ultimately I think you might pass on after a while. Like, I really like the idea of that, the White Scar guy, it's kind of like the Apothecary that can heal. Uh-huh. He's just so slow. I just never use him. I never use him.
Yeah, I don't see use for him. I see the use for him. I just don't see room for him.
Yeah, the 5/5 infantry that makes a battle honor make a seal.
Is that the samurai? Yeah,
yes, the samurai guy. Yeah, and I forget his name, but he's a really yes.
He is a literal samurai, which blows my mind.
And he's such a cool character in the stories he's in. He is obviously he's an agent of the Sigillite, but he is kind of a hunter.
The last samurai.
I think the first time we get him introduced is in Outcast Dead, and then he ends up palling around with the Space Wolves when they're trying to stop Ahriman and the Thousand Suns from getting all the shards of Magnus. And he's literally just a mortal man with a mortal blade who's got the gall and gumption to fight traitor marines and demons as much as he can. I really like I like the character. Unfortunately, the card just kind of leaves me wanting. Like there's other cards I'll play, but I like the fact that he's in there.
I just love his character being just the last samurai of Terra, because after the world went to shit, the samurai rebuilt for some reason, and that's just casually mentioned.
You gotta have some samurai every now and then.
Like, you gotta.
Yeah. But
samurai obviously would rebuild the minute all the technology exploded.
Yeah, he makes up. He has that blade that is just like his sword is, and then I think it gets like melted or something by Magnus's shard or a demon. I can't recall which. And then he's just totally devastated, which is very kind of like classic thematic. Like, he has no blade. Like, what is he? A swordsman without a sword.
Honoru.
Yeah. But it's just, there's some good characters, and there's some good cards. Even their high cost stuff, which doesn't see a whole lot of play. I think like the structure, the 5/8 structure, which I love the fact that can't be Mugator, but the one that like makes seals, and then you draw a card. It's a cool concept. Like, it ties in. You got to get to that stage of the game or play it for free with a seal. I guess you could. I think there's better cards to play than that, though, especially at the speed of the game. Like, you want to, by 5 energy, really what you want to have is either Covert Operative or the Aristed Kell, and then the next turn follow up with a, Chosen of the Sigillite for max damage, and then go from there. And then let your opponent, respond to that. But there's other cards that are really good. Like I said, I like the Space Wolf. I play the Space Wolf a lot because he's got Ward. He can potentially protect or detect and respond to flankers. And then if he survives, I throw that Sigillite's Chosen on him. It's good stuff.
I know you haven't read the Siege books yet, but isn't he the guy that is in the Fury of Magnus book?
Bror Tearfinger?
I don't know if you've read them.
I haven't read the Siege books yet. I don't know if Bror is the was it Bjarviki?
Bjarki.
Yeah,
the 7-drop 6/7. I'm pretty sure he's in Fury of Magnus, and he has this really cool line.
He could be.
He says something.
Yeah, Bror is the 3/5, correct?
Yeah, and he's the with the rally damage.
Yeah,
really good card.
And he ends up going back to Russ, and that's where his story ends. Which is a shame, because I thought he was kind of a cool character. He was one of the Knights Errant that helped lead the first assault on the Vengeful Spirit that saw the end of Ioctan Cruz, as well as several other characters at that point in time. But then he makes his return voyage with Leman Russ, and it doesn't go quite according to plan. But, that's the spoilers. Spoilers. I should have probably said that part first, right? I probably should have said spoilers first.
Yeah, I mean, bit of an old book.
It's true. I have just now started today. I have started Buried Dagger. Yes, I am. So I am at the last book of the Horus Heresy part, and then I will get into the Siege stuff. Talk about maybe a little bit when we get done with the card by card stuff as far as Titan Death, because I got some thoughts on that. But overall, is there anything with the concepts of the faction, how they play, that we haven't discussed? We talked about seals, talked about their abilities, talked about the warlords, as far as talking about. Okay, so with that said, let's talk about the warlords. What is your guys' favorite warlord currently for the faction?
Okay. I personally like Rubio. I know Iota was like one of the actual first warlords I unlocked in the game, aside from Loken. And I played them quite a bit, but Rubio is a lot of fun simply because of the options that you can go with it. It is a troop heavy faction, but you could also go, like Angron style warlord attack a lot, base bash, and then buff when you're ready to kill. Save up on those 2+2 purple cards that he gives you.
Psionic Fury.
Yes. I really like the flexibility with Tylos. A lot. I don't have Yakton unlocked, but if I did, I think I would like Yakton a lot. I really like Frontline Warlords. So
I really don't like Frontline Warlords, but I really like the way Rubio plays, because he's just more, I'm making seals. Don't leave me a body, because I'll just make a seal. And he can build up some lethal because his cards stack. It's a lot of fun. I gotta give Rubio my favorite warlord. I totally forgot his name. I wanted to call him Typhus, but that's obviously wrong. So it took me a minute to figure it out again. So he is quite fun.
Right. Well, I don't disagree that Tylos Rubio is fun. I think I've had a lot of fun with him. I think he is a very flexible mid-range. He can go aggro, he can push, he can work on board. Orders from Terra with their Psionic Fury gives you a lot of potential damage reach. And for a while there, he was definitely my favorite. But I got to give it to Malkador himself. And I know Malkador has got some weak spots. But in terms of playing the game, when I'm playing with Malkador, I really feel like I'm playing the game more, if that makes sense. His ability for hand knowledge is just so... I'm not playing it for the seals. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, when I play Malkador, I'm not... If I get a seal, that's a bonus. That's great. That's cool. You know, maybe I can do something with it because I don't know what kind of seal I'm going to get. Maybe I can get Reckoning, and then I'll know what seal I'm going to get. I just like being able to play knowing you have that card in your deck. You have that card in your hand. And therefore, at 5 energy, if I play this card, you're either going to have that to respond or you're not. You're going to save it. And if you save it, then I will know that you'll play it when I play this card. And just that level. And sometimes I trip myself up because I think about it a little bit too much. But usually it's pretty straightforward. If I play Covert Operative and you've got Informant Network in your deck, you're going to play Informant Network. And maybe not only will I get a seal from that, maybe I'll also deal 5 damage to your Warlord, and then you'll attack my 3 troop, and then I've done 8 damage to you and have a seal from a single turn play. I like that. I just like that element. I like the hand knowledge, and it gets better as the game goes along. It can get watered down if they have a huge hand. Sometimes you can just look at the whispers over and over again. That's a possibility, and obviously, like I said, in some matchups, like a Diaz matchup, that just is good luck, you know. But I just have more fun playing Malkador more than anything. Acting Crews I haven't played as much of, even though I like the Warlord. I've liked him since he was one of the first event Warlords out there. I just have played all the other Warlords more than him, and by the time he got added... This is the problem. By the time he got added, we were out of deck slots, so I don't have a slot for Acting Crews. And that's really why I haven't played him. It's not my fault at all, it's the deck slots.
Yeah, obvious.
It's always
at the end of the day, it's always deck slots.
At the end of the day, every day, I wake up, it's like, the fuel's gone up. Deck slots!
Oh, man, you joke. Fuel just went up 12 cents the other night.
Ooh, yikes.
It's currently 2 something over here Canadian, which is a lot. It shouldn't be this much.
$2 Canadian?
$2 Canadian. That I know you guys got to pay more, but up here it's starting to hurt. Okay.
I mean,
I'm like $5 a gallon over here.
Yeah, I know some places are at $6. I currently here we're just at the $4 mark US. Typically, the Canadian dollar is more than the US dollar.
It is. For every US dollar.
What food reserve are you guys sitting on? Is this like a maple syrup reserve? What's going on here?
Well, you joke. We actually have a maple syrup vault.
I knew it. Hang on. I'm texting my conspiracy friends right now.
Have you never heard of the
maple
maple
syrup
syrup
vault?
It's
Open it?
real. No.
I thought you guys actually opened it.
Oh yeah, we opened into it. We lost a bunch of maple syrup, so we actually had to go into there and grab a bunch.
I heard
this isn't a joke.
That the pipeline, the maple syrup pipeline, was running through protected Indian grounds.
You think you and I'd be joking about a maple syrup pipeline, but a maple syrup vault, but I really am not.
I know. That's what's so amazing. Honestly, it's quite astounding.
It's honestly amazing the fact that we have one.
You know, they don't have maple syrup in the 40K millennium, the 41st or 31st millennium. I guess.
Well, they barely have coffee.
They barely have water. Let's be real.
Yeah.
The Gazcole book mentioned, it's narrated by Makari, and he says that Gazcole says something as if it sounded like syrup, so it exists in the universe.
Syrup's just a state.
Yeah, you could have a syrupy goo. You could have a chocolate syrup.
Yeah, syrup's just a thing. Yeah,
well,
it just means like
Terra
a viscous liquid.
Trees, so we don't have maple anymore since Terra has no more trees.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, but they could have transferred the trees over. Remember, they did.
Terraform.
They found a lot of barren. Yeah, they terraformed planets.
Yeah. So you're saying somewhere out there in the 31st millennium, there could be a Canadian terraform planet?
Yeah, everyone wears plaid.
A Maple Leafus? Maple Leafinatus?
Greater Canada.
You have to win at hockey to be inducted into the Astartes.
That's right. That's their grilling process. That's how they get into it.
It's just a normal hockey match, but there's blades on the end of the hockey stick. People will die.
I mean, that sounds, honestly, that's not too far-fetched from something that they would have pitched in 1990.
Really, it isn't, because, I mean, squats existed, and let's cut back to biker dwarves as a faction.
We're getting there. We're getting there. What's so hard? You know what? It's not so hard. Space hockey. It's coming. It's GW's next foray.
It's the next Blood Bowl.
Blades of Fury.
I mean, you make a good point. In a world where Blood Bowl exists, there's nothing to say we can't get a weird hockey game.
I think why not? Like a 40K Hockey Fest Puckmageddon.
Puckmageddon's good.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so Warlords.
We're supposed to be the agents.
Yeah, we're talking about the agents of Sigillite. We somehow got on the tangent with the maple syrup and space dwarves, but it works out. We're back here with the agents of Sigillite. So, Warlord choices, we've got those out of the way. What would you guys say then? And we talked about the cards for the most part, overall, as far as what the faction does. What would you say is your top 3 cards for the faction?
That's a bit hard.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, M. Shen. That's just good-natured fun. Malkador Circle, big time. And I know that's going to be one of yours. After that, can I choose a seal?
Yeah. Actually, no. You know what? Save the seal talk. We'll rank the seals. Let's rank the seals at the end.
That sounds fun. I was going to say, you could have even chose Chaos Fun during a Word Bear episode. Just because you can't start with it doesn't mean it isn't your favorite card.
Although, technically, it's under the Chaos. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's under Word Bears. If you go into the collection and show all, Chaos Fun's there.
So it's also under Chaos and Word Bears, then. Okay.
Is it under Chaos as well?
Yeah, I just saw it today.
Oh, really? They might have changed it. Or it might be under both. But originally, it was just under Word Bearers because Word Bearers introduced the cards that made them first.
Right. I'm looking at the Word Bearers now just to see. But yeah, it was in Chaos. I did the card by card this evening for the final end. Chaos Spawn is not there.
They moved it. Well, they also moved Barricade over to Iron Warriors where it belongs.
You know what they haven't done? They haven't given us more deck slots. I'm just going to say it.
They haven't. They were more worried about moving the Chaos Spawn around. How does that make you feel?
We're trying to get vaccines out to everybody, and with every vaccine is a deck slot. I swear, it's going to happen. But you had card number 3. So if you're not picking a seal, MasterWalks.
Okay. Then I would have to go with Kel, actually.
Okay.
So Malkador Circle, Imshen, and Kel.
Solid picks.
If I got to get to mine, I don't like including legendaries in my initial one. I like all their legendaries except probably Cursed Wanderer because it's all right. It's a better Manifest Destiny, but at the same time, I don't really see it fitting in my deck anymore. So, okay, no seals. But I actually am going to have to think of how I'm going to rank this. A bit difficult to think of without seals. I liked Keeler, but she got changed so badly I don't even play her anymore. Hard. I didn't think I'd actually have a difficult time thinking of my favorite cards. I like Execution Force. Stealing Stone's Troop. Gotta give it to Cal. Or not Execution Force kills. What's the one that steals again? The class. I'm trying to think of its name.
No, you're talking about New Loyalty?
Yeah, New Loyalty. Doesn't steal, but
it just makes a copy of it. Mm-hmm.
I find that one real fun. But I might just take the cop out and give it to Covert Operative, Kel, and my boy. What's the Eversource called? Ganymus?
Ganymus. Mm-hmm.
I'll give it to Ganymus, Kel, and. Yeah, I'll give it to all 3 of them.
You're going for the assassins. You're rocking the assassins. Okay.
The assassins, they fit their characters very well. Kel's all about that one shot. He's I can't remember the name. Today is a bad day.
He's a Vindicare assassin.
Vindicare. There we go. Sniper boys.
Mm-hmm.
We got the hacker boys, who's the Vanus.
The Vanus, which I love the fact that they included the Vanus assassin in this faction because it's an undersung. Yeah.
Missing the Poisoners.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Ganymus, though I wish he had a backlash to explode, he fits the character. He's a scary boy who gets stronger over time. I'll have to give it to all of them. And honorable mentions to Sigillite Chosen for making all 3 of them the best cards in the faction.
Yeah, I feel like I can't not say Sigillite Chosen. Let's be real. That card is... Yeah. You got to get that card.
You got to give it to it.
Yeah.
The only reason I exempt it is because I'm going to slap it onto one of those assassins.
On any of those things. And the fact that, Covert Operative and Aristed Kel come out stealthed, and then you can, it survived, here you go, deal with this now.
All the assassins got stealths.
That's it. And they're chosen by the Sigillite. It's very thematic. If I'm not picking, if I'm just excluding Sigillite Chosen, because that's hands down the shit. Personally, I love Covert Operative. I love Gaze of the Regent, and it's so simple, but
can attack's useful.
Yes, deal 2 damage and give can attack, and that can go on a warlord, that can go on a troop. It's so useful for that setup game. It's a common. I throw 2 of those in every deck because there's no reason not to. As a third choice, yeah, that's a tough call. I would probably say...
Not as easy as you think.
No, because there are really just some solid cards, solid card options, some good cards. Not even looking at the legendaries. I'm going to probably go with Bror Tearfinger. A 5 energy body, it's just a 3/5, but it's got a rally effect that can clear a body, give you a seal. It's not something that your opponent wants to put back in your hand. That just is too good. I mean, Imshen is a turn 1. Like, if you get that thrown down most games turn 1 and they don't kill it, that's awesome. If you get late game, she's not as powerful. The other legendaries, like Prometheus is, it can go off. I really don't think you need their legendaries except for their 5 cost, which is their only direct damage high damage. Like, you've got Gaze of the Regent does 2, but otherwise you've got to do 1 legendary that can deal 5, the Sword of Truth. And that's a good legendary to have, but you don't have to have the other legendaries to do the work. You can work really well with commons and epics and rares. And really just 2 epics. You need 2 copies of Sigillite's Chosen, and then pick some troops. Profit. That's maybe sounds like that card is more powerful than it really is. You need to have a good troop to support it, but ultimately that's the way to go.
And that's not a bad thing.
No. That's my pick. Those are my 3. I like the fact that most of them are not legendaries. There's some epics in there. There's some good choices for epics, but I think most factions have usually got a couple epics that you want to have anyways. As far as the faction goes, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you had to rate the faction, how would you rate it?
I would say they're... I don't know if I want to call them the most comfortable place, because we don't see much of them. But they're really thematic. I think I'm going to drop them at a 7. 7 or upper 6.
I would say power-wise, a 6, and then how fun they are to actually pilot, probably a 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm. I think he kind of nailed it there because it feels like it's 2 separate scores. I think in terms of where they are at currently in the game, if you're looking for wins, I think the 6 is right. I think the 6 is spot on. You can get wins. We've talked about the power of the cards. They can do some great things, but the game itself in its current state and its current speed and the way the cards are being handled, Inescapable Cell, Shadow Killers can deal with a lot of this stuff. The Raven Guard can splash damage. The Night Lords are just too fast and can put some hurt down on your Warlord before it really matters to get the setup, because this is a faction that requires setup. But in terms of playing them, in terms of getting a reward for your efforts, whether that is I put a troop down and now this troop can do something cool, or I can use this other tactic to make this troop cool, or I can guess the cards in your hand so I can get a seal that I can play if I draw it to do something cool. Like, the reward there is very fun, and at the same time it's not just building traps with Alpha Legion. I make trap, I put trap. I make trap, I put trap. Did you draw it? Like, you're actually playing the game. You're putting troops down. There's a chance for your opponent to interact. You're looking at your opponent's hand. There's a chance that they might not play those cards. They might play the card that they just drew that you didn't see. Like, there's interaction there. It's on a different level, but you're playing the game, and that, I think, makes them a high fun faction. If you like that level of play, if you're here just to play Burn, there's 5 other factions that you can play and have the fun that you want. But if you actually want to play a card game, I think this is a great faction for it. I would put these guys up there as far as like factions that represent playing a card game in this game. I would say Agents of the Sigillite, Alpha Legion, and if I just had to pick one off the top of my head, Ultramarines. I feel like Ultramarines can do a lot of responding, and they've got a lot of tactics, and they're pretty flexible all around. Very generic, but I feel like when you're playing them, you feel like you're playing a card game. There's back and forth.
I always feel that way with Sisters.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Sisters could be a good response, yeah.
Sisters are a lot of reaction. I like the way they play. They're good.
Which I think brings us to the seals. I mean, we got to talk about the seals, right? We talked about the seals at the start, but we're talking ranking them or picking our favorite seal.
I think we might want to should we work together as a tier list? Make our own tier list? Because how many others?
Is there a seal tier list?
5.
Yeah, there's the
only 5?
Seal of the Sisterhood.
There's 5. I'm looking at them right now.
Yep, there's there's the McCragg's Honor, there's the Irresistible Charisma, there's the Lure card.
McCragg's Honor, 2 of them.
Yeah, Lure card to 0, and then Bounce.
Yeah, let's just... should we do our top favorite one?
I'm just going to pick the favorite for me is McCragg's. I don't see there's any reason not to like McCragg's.
Ooh, I really like Irresistible Charisma. Because I find it hilarious.
I think most practical, like as far as doing good in the game, would definitely be McCragg's Honor, but the Irresistible Charisma is definitely the most fun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's fun in terms of, like, stealing it and ganking their stuff and be like, oh, he's mine now.
Stealing a Death Shroud? Mm.
Yep. You got your defense force? All right, cool. He's my defense force now, you know. It's a nice play. It feels just as good when you're playing as the Defenders of Caliban. It's the same feel. In terms of game ending, I think, definitely the McCragg's Honor ends games or gets you to survive long enough to end the game the next turn. Seal of the Sisterhood is like probably the most hated, but it's not the most it's powerful. It is powerful in certain matchups, but it's not in every matchup.
Not gonna do anything against the Mono Warlord.
No, like all right, 3 damage, 3 for 3, surprise.
If you don't, it punishes players who play like Lucretia, who splurge out their entire hand and then go, well, now I win because my board is bigger.
Yep.
You got to prepare for a counter.
Stealth troops, you can get rid of that, or Bastion. You know, like that's the one thing you can do against the Imperial Fist. Like, oh, all those turrets are just dead. That's cool. But you probably took a pummeling by the time you got that seal, so...
Would you guys agree that the worst one is the bounce one?
I feel, for me, personally, the worst one is the next card of 0. Only because... there's so many potential, like... Early. I really want to use it for, like, just to drop a Macer Varen and get him down.
Oh, yeah.
And just go... Or even a Cerberus and get him down and go swinging earlier. But 9 times out of 10... I don't have anything in my hand to play it with. I have like 3 cost, maybe a 5 cost card, and I've got 5 energies. Like, why? Like, I don't have enough. It just feels like that's not as effective. I think the bouncing may not be as beneficial for my own troops because very rarely do I want to return my own troop to my hand. There's a couple instances that I might. But at least I can, at least I can bounce their stuff, and it doesn't matter what it is as long as it's not warded. I can bounce it. So for me, I would say the 0 cost one is the least one I like.
Oh, that's fair. I found very little use of it. It's the only time I'll ever play Cursed Wanderer if I can get it free. 300. Yeah, it's got a big problem of you can't guarantee you draw it early. So realistically, you're spending 3 energy to drop that 7 energy card. Might be able to move in with something else that's 4 energy. That could be useful. But odds are you're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Shame, really. Yeah, I think there's a mutual agreement that 7 damage to face is very good.
How do you argue with that?
Yeah. 7 damage for 3 seems like a good deal.
Seems like a good buy, or a heal 7 for 3. I mean, what's not to like?
Very little to complain about.
Now, here's one thing to complain about, guys. We haven't talked about this enough, and we gotta say it here. Nathaniel Garro is not in this faction, and my God,
he is asterisk. He's on like 7 different cards.
He is, he's the face. He's the face that runs the place. This Nathaniel Garro is the Knight Errant. Almost all of the Knight Errant stories have got him involved one way or the other. He's got an entire book. He's on the artwork for like a dozen of these cards. A dozen might be a slight exaggeration, but seriously, like 4 or 5 cards, which is a tenth of the card pool. And he's not in the faction. And yet, the argument was, oh, well, we don't want to have 2 Nathaniel Garros because, that could be confusing. But we have Macer Varen, who is literally, Macer Varen in both the World Eaters as well as the Agents. And then you've got Cerberus, who is Loken.
And then you've got Severian. Severian, who's, while he's an event warlord, we were fighting for him. It blows my mind.
It does. I cannot express the level of disappointment that we didn't get a different Garro. I would have been fine if and here's the thing. I mean, there's precedence for the for every guild to just take Garro out of the Death Guard card pool, make him give him the exact same ability. give him better art. I hate that art. The art is so outdated. We need new art for Garro, like soft plug for that. But you just take that exact same warlord, pitch him in over as a 30 HP warlord for the Sigillites, and go from there. And that's good enough for me. I know that's not like the greatest. I would like to see a unique Garro ability, but we've had other warlords or other troops that have become warlords, or warlords that have become troops, and vice versa. Lucius, an Eidolon, and yeah, I just feel like it's not just a missed opportunity. It's like an offense. I'm not a huge Garro fan, but I cannot dispute the fact that is the knight errant. I love the fact that we got Rubio and Ioctan Cruz. I think that's great, but not getting Garro.
One of my favorite word bearers.
Yeah.
Not word bearers. Ultramarines. Rubio the word bearer. No Garro is a front, if anything.
Do you guys think we will get Garro in the next expansion?
No. As a troop, maybe.
I wouldn't mind if it's a troop. Yeah, honestly, if he was a troop, I would accept it. Should he be a troop?
Using the Sigillite's chosen art. That's what he should have been.
That's a solid card. What was that?
I think Garro should be a troop if Logan got turned into a troop. It's only fair.
Yeah.
Logan is an important character. He shows up 3 times after his initial stuff. Once the heresy kicks off, he's not around because he kind of loses his mind and becomes Moon Knight.
Cerberus. Yeah.
Well, he pops up in the siege here and there.
Well, that's what I mean. He pops up the siege 3 times. He's an important character, but Garro's the one who runs around and makes his army.
Yeah, Garro did a lot of legwork for Malkador, and even when he was trying to ask for a not necessarily leave of absence, but kind of his own, give me some time to work on myself type of situation, he was still doing stuff for Malkador.
I gotta go. I'll still work for you, but I got things I got to do.
If he became a troop, I'd be fine with it. If he was a warlord, I'd be fine with it. I am not fine with him just being pictured on tactics that aren't named Nathaniel Garro. It just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, it just doesn't sit right.
Yeah, and I really hope when we get new cards, I hope that the 5th warlord is not Iapto as he currently was in the events. I think that was
Wasn't he just relic?
He was literally just like take a card, shuffle it, and draw a card. It wasn't even draw 2 cards. It was just draw a card. So you return a card, draw a card. It's such a terrible ability. The faction wants to be able to draw cards if you have seals. So here's the thing, and just my mindset, my philosophy with the faction. You have 2 warlords that don't do anything with seals. If you are running Ioctan Cruz or Iota, if you put the 2 energy tactic that makes a seal in your deck, great, fine, that's it. Otherwise, don't bank on seals. Bank on everything else that the faction does. If you are playing with Rubio or Malkador, then you are making seals, in which case then you want to consider those additional options such as Relics of the Past or other card drawing abilities, possibilities, maybe Orbital Base to cycle in some cards and increase your chances of drawing your seals faster. That's where you want that. You have 2 warlords that don't do anything to make seals. You have 2 warlords that do. Iapto does not make a seal, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to give him an ability to draw for a card that he can't make, and he probably will only have a couple cards that can make a seal in his deck to begin with.
What could be a neat ability would be discard a card, put a seal into your deck. But even then, I feel like that'd be neat, but doesn't fit the game.
Yeah, it'd be hard because you're still you're just straight discarding a card, which I don't think we have seen enough of that. Obviously, I think Fafnir Rand's the only one that's actually discarded stuff.
There needs to be more warlords that work around discarding.
But I think if they changed Iapto to do something a little differently, gosh, that would just be better. And he doesn't even have to do something with seal. I think if he had a way to gain precognition or stealth, which is very more thematic to his character, his ability, he's got that kind of natural stealth ability. I think that would be cool, but that might be too much. I don't know what else they could get. I mean, I can imagine. Do you think we'll get the assassin, the poison assassin? I forget what they're called.
No, I can't remember their names either. But no, they're not They're not prevalent enough.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like them, but I don't think we're going to get an entire warlord. That's just one of them.
Well, like Iota's only in one book, but that's
She
a
is only
warlord.
in one book, but she's a Caluxius assassin. They have a bunch of stuff about them.
Yeah, they also have they've also got a Calexis assassin as a mind cost card,
which no one plays.
It's fun to play though. I played it a couple times early on when I didn't have all the cards, and that stealth body for 9/6, like you want to attack for 9, but occasionally you're like, let's just see if you got a tactic in your hand. Oh, it's a 10 cost tactic, Apotheosis. Guess what? That's just for fun. Realistically, the game plays faster. Getting Ganymus is their top. Ganymus or Uristed Kell.
Here it is. Venom.
Oh, well, that's that's a good...
Rate hitting it on the nose.
Land Raider.
Land Raider. Made by Arkan Land.
Yes. All right, well, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of knight errants that aren't in the faction currently. There's a lot of characters that have popped up that have been kind of worked in with Malkador, but they're only going to get 8 to 9 cards. So, I don't know. Do you guys think they'll get a new seal?
Oh, yeah. I actually do think they'll get a new seal.
What's it going to be, though?
That's the thing. I have no clue. I feel like it will still happen.
I feel like they could do the hammer as a seal.
Yeah, I say this, but then again, did we get new traps and secret orders?
We did not get new traps or secret orders, but we did get new operatives. We did get new... Oh, gosh. The theoreticals, right? We got a new theoretical, but that's still just a tactic. The seals are kind of a special thing, right? They can't be generated.
That's why I'm thinking we might not get them, actually, now that I'm backpedaling. I realized what I said, and I'm leaving this conversation, because I don't think they're gonna.
I don't know.
Break my heart.
I think if we don't get seals, at least I think there'll be a card that makes a seal. If we don't get new seals, you're going to get at least something that does that. That's fine. I just really hope the Warlord is not Iapto, as he was in the past. And I think that's probably the only thing I have as a wish list, and I figure we're probably within 4 weeks of seeing some spoilers for the faction. That's my prediction. So hopefully 4 episodes from now we'll be talking about it. But my only wish list really is give me Nathaniel Garro as a card for the faction, and don't make Iapto as he was during events. Otherwise, I don't care. I mean, they don't have a flanker, they don't have a fast troop. If you want to give me one of those, it could be a really shitty 2-2 flank fast. I don't care. I like the faction as is. I feel like anything that they give, I can figure out a way to work in there, but I really, as far as theme goes and key characters, that's really what I want to see.
Makes sense.
Do you guys have a choice, a preference, a wish list?
A wish?
I'm wondering if all these non-Astartes factions will be getting mission cards.
Oh, they will.
Yeah.
Well, as far as we know, they will.
They will be getting missions. What they'll do, I don't know. I hope the mission for Agents of the Sigillite is not just play seals. Victory condition is randomly generate a seal. I hope it's a little bit more.
Yeah, that's what I feel like.
Interesting. Use troop abilities 4 times, because they have a lot of troops that use abilities, and then you get that, and then resolution, create a seal in your deck and draw a card.
I don't think they should base the mission at all around seals. I mean, they've done really good with all the other factions, with the exception of Dark Angels, with their mission not revolving around their Primarch ability.
I mean, sure. But the idea of the missions is supposed to be alternative to their main playstyle in general, not just their Primarch, which they've already not done on several Warlords.
Yeah.
Or factions, rather. So I feel like there's a high chance it will just be seals, because they're just going to go, well, seals.
Well, I mean, they could do something where, there's a lot that they could do. If I really were to break down and, guess, they could do stuff where, play troops and your troops get buffed, or randomly create an assassin in your hand. Which, assassins are just infantry; they're not a separate card type. It'd be a little bit tricky to do that unless they rebranded them. Or you could have something like your Warlord gains precognition and Survivor 5. Which is a really shitty reward, but it depends on, I guess, what the trigger is, because usually the reward is somewhat tied to the trigger usage. I mean, there are some examples where that didn't quite jive, like the first draft of the Iron Hands mission didn't make sense at all. It makes a little bit more sense now, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they'll do, but I'm sure they'll get a mission, and I'm sure there'll be at least one warlord that makes sense to play it,
I mean, they could do like a high, like a draw 15 cards or something, since this faction already does pretty good draw.
Yeah.
One of the better draw.
I feel like, though, that's just guaranteed.
At this stage of the game, I rarely see turn 15.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, there's no mission that's just if nothing happens, or rather, no one has to do anything to get it. I still have to use sentence. I still have to hope that my enemy warlord doesn't attack. This will just tick down naturally. That's weird.
Yeah, I think the only exception to that might be like Kroll's Reckoning is like if they don't have a troop, you get it.
Yeah. I mean, I was referring to missions.
But like as far as missions go, yeah, I mean, it's got to be something contingent on you. But there are a couple. The weakest ones, are ones that your opponent can interact with, such as the Death Guard and the Imperial Fist ones. So I don't know.
Yeah, I really have no idea what they're going to do. I guess we won't know until they do it.
No, we won't. I'm looking forward to it. Maybe in 4 weeks' time we'll be collectively hyped, or we'll be collectively just shaking our heads and being like, dude, no Garro. Are you kidding me? No, Nathaniel? I hope that's not the case.
I'm already ready to be disappointed. Yeah, I'm already ready to be.
I think, honestly, it is the best way for them to do alt art Garro and then just sell them in the shop. I mean, I'm not advocating alt art Garro, but if we've got alt art Loken and alt art Corswain and alt art Bolvi, which, I mean, the alt arts look good. Like, let's get Garro in there.
Garro's an important character.
Absolutely.
I don't know why he hasn't gotten any love from PG.
His art
even his representation doesn't.
Yeah, his art is just atrocious. Just ugh.
Oh, it's bad.
Makes me it just sours in my mouth. Well, I think we've talked about the faction at length. I think we've gone over a lot. We've got some speculation talk, which I don't always love speculating, but I mean, I feel like we're getting so close to seeing new cards for the faction that I think it's fair to speculate. Hopefully, people will disagree or agree with some of the takes here. I mean, I think if you're disagreeing at this point in time with the Agents of Sigillite, either you have been done dirty by Sigillite's Chosen one time too many, or you've never actually played the faction and just don't get it, man. You've probably never heard of it. That's hipster Malkador. Malkador is just too hip for you. You probably don't get it.
I hate everything that you just said. But I agree.
So, when you're not playing Legions, MasterWalks, what do you do?
I am actually currently painting a diorama while talking to you guys. And I just got back from fishing and had no luck, and I got a sunburn. But that's it.
Ah, okay. Lake fishing, river fishing?
I do both, but today we went to a lake.
I prefer lake fishing over river fishing. That's just me.
Yeah.
I prefer river simply because I like fly fishing the most. But yeah, no, I've had decent luck at this spot, but I'm pretty disappointed today. I'm not gonna lie.
It's been a while since I've gone fishing. I like the lake fishing just because, like, it's more relaxing than river fishing. River fishing, you got to get out there. Usually, half the time, there's a lot more work involved. You got to walk to the spot, find the spot, move down and up. The lake is like, I park it. This is good. Or maybe you get on the boat and you move a little bit, and this is good, and then just hang out. And that's, for me, that's what I like doing. And then you get sunburned, and everybody has a great time.
If you catch something, everybody's having a great time.
That's right. If you're not catching anything, man, the only people having a good time are the fish.
Right.
I mean, if enough alcohol involved, even if you're not catching anything.
Well, if there's enough alcohol involved, you're definitely not catching anything.
Yes.
Well, okay, depends on what you define by enough.
What are you up to, Axel?
What am I up to, Axel?
I don't know why I said it like that. I really don't. I'm still doing my D&D stuff. I've recently got a commission I commissioned something from our good artist friend, Dorn Stash, which I shout out every episode, for my party, everyone survived for a long time, so I decided to get them actual pretty art instead of the best, worst Photoshopped ever made. I'll try to find some here quickly. They are so the folks at home won't be able to see them, but we will. They're awful, and I love them. So yeah, I decided to get some real art, so I've been doing that. Party fought a bunch of draconians, and they got messed up. So it's a good time. Besides that, I've been playing Mechanicus lately. Great game. You still playing that stuff?
I have beat it. I have beat Mechanicus.
Oh, you beat it?
It is a great game. I have not moved on to Chaos Gate yet. I really want to, but I'm toeing in other games right now. I just started Disgaea, which is like 15 years or 20 years behind the times, but it's been on my list for a while. I picked it up for super cheap on Steam. So I'm playing Disgaea. I also was playing X-Wing or Star Wars Squadrons because I got that on cheap. And I am raging at Squadrons right now because one of the missions, Mission 7, is bugged, and I cannot get past it. Like, it's not that it's difficult. The game will not trigger the next step in the mission progression, so you just fly around. There's nothing to shoot except a Star Destroyer that blows you out of the water. I destroyed like 60 TIE fighters, and your squad mates insist that they're being shot down, and they're not. And I looked online, and this bug is reported back in 2020. I didn't see any recommended fix for it. I've tried restarting the game and reloading it. It happens again. So I'm kind of hung up there. So if I play multiplayer, I guess I'll play Squadrons, but that kind of pisses me off.
Yeah, I've heard of that bug.
It's
you guys played Battle Sector?
Which one?
Battle Sector's good.
Battle Sector?
I have not.
It's a Warhammer game.
It's good with the new update that changed the single player campaign. Before it's
okay, so I just started playing it.
Is it good?
Yeah. What did they change?
Battle Sector got Battle Sector got an update that changed the campaign into being a 3-faction map, and you like fight over territories, kind of like Dark Crusade. The original one was just here's a list of missions.
Gotcha. I don't think it's that great of a game. Mostly
it's
because
really
I'm
good
upset
at emulating the tabletop experience.
Yes, that's what I will say. It does a very good job at pretending to be tabletop, but the fact that there's only like 2 playable factions, and then like you get like a Sisters of Battle here and there.
There's 3 now.
It's shallow. Oh, with Necrons as a DLC.
Yeah. But the plan is to keep adding the other factions to the game.
That was one thing that kind of like drove me away from it initially. Like I saw it and it was like, oh, cool, it's kind of 40k tactics, and then it just like, oh, it's just Tyranids and Blood Angels. That's it. And I was like, well, then I'll pass. Like, I mean, if you're gonna give a game at this point, and I'm not expecting like every single faction or sub-faction in the 40k universe, but if you're gonna give a game that only has 2 factions out of a product line that's got like 30, I just doesn't on launch. That just isn't appealing to me, especially for price. So yeah, I passed on it. I just had never heard like how it played, if it was a good game or not. Maybe over a couple of years, if they add some more stuff, it'd be interesting. But that kind of sounds just kind of flat.
Right now, it's all right. I don't really want to play an all right game.
Yeah. I play it for like 15 minutes before work, and then I never get through like a whole mission in a day. It's just a fun time passer.
Well, sometimes you get those. Sometimes you get some good ones, and sometimes you don't. You get some stinkers. It just kind of depends. You gotta use your time wisely. That's one thing that what really made me mad with Squadrons, is because I only have so much time to play a game, and then I spent like 2 hours on this one mission, playing it like 2 or 3 times, and I can't progress. It's just time wasted. So, yeah, that just makes me mad. And then I just say, you know what? Screw it. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to play something else. Now, before we get to plugs really quick, because I feel like there's stuff to plug. I do want to mention here that if for anybody who's listening and enjoying or not enjoying our conversations, our hot takes on factions, we have an open invite on the podcast that's always out there. As we get close with the World Cup teams, we'll probably be having the schedule, hopefully, fingers crossed, filled up with some teams from the World Cup to speak. But there is an open invitation, so if you'd like to be on the podcast to discuss whatever we're talking about, whatever topic of the week, shoot us a PM. It doesn't matter what platform you're on. Let us know that you're out there. Also, I didn't mention this. I had this file searched for you guys. This is not my make. This is MasterWalks. Last time you were on, you said that we had a song. We did, in fact, have a very awesome beat, as it were, for the Alpha Legion. This one we actually have got. This is something that was created in the community several years ago, way back when. And I downloaded this. I kept this. I'm going to soft plug, or a hard plug, as it were. This is actually done by Low Pass, which is an old player. I don't even know if he still plays anymore. But he made this song here, a little beat mix, with a co-contribution from the one and only LCFR. And I'm just going to play it, and you guys want to take a listen to it. It's pretty simple, but it's thematic to our episode today.
Do not waste your tears.
I feel like we need to
not
sum
born
up.
to watch the world grow dim. Life is not measured in years.
Yeah, I don't. Wow.
Deeds of men.
Not what I was expecting.
Malcador, the Sigillite, creator of the gray night, still devoted, holding like to see it through that old night. Malcador, the Sigillite, creator of the gray night, still devoted, holding like to see it through that old night.
Do not waste your tears. Life is not measured in years. Watch the world grow.
It's a quick 2-minute ditty. You know,
Watch the world grow.
kind of rehashing the beat, mixing it up.
Do not waste
Low Pass actually has got a YouTube channel where he's got some other audio mixes that he's
Watch
done.
the world grow. Watch the
I
world
don't
grow.
think they're 40K or Horus Heresy Legions. I think they're just kind of his own original mix.
Do not waste
But
your tears.
I thought this is funny. This is something that should live on in the game community.
Life is not measured in years,
Oh yeah, definitely.
but by the deeds of men.
Malcador, the
like it.
Sigillite, creator of the gray night, still
You know what this sounds like?
holding like to see it through that old
It almost
night.
sounds like a wrestling superstar entrance theme.
Ooh, just the beat alone makes me think, yeah.
Yeah, you see, like this is like just imagine like a Bobby Lashley just like entering the ring, some moody broody, got the towel over the head maybe.
By the deeds of men.
Decrepit old man getting on
Got
stage.
some dark lights going on. Yeah.
It's not measured in years.
It works.
Watch the world grow. Watch the world grow.
Yeah. So there you go, boys.
I'll have to listen after the call. It's not liking me being on the call and trying to play it at the
Yeah.
same time.
That's true.
That's fair.
That's fair. But either which way, check out Low Pass. I will plug Low Pass, even though, I don't know if he plays Legions anymore. It's been years. This single song track was 3 years old at this point. This is like early infantry, early infant stage of the game. The community was growing out there, but it holds up for the test of time. It's got something created by 2 other people in the community. I thought that was a nice gem. It's a good reminder for anybody who missed it, and for those who have heard it before, I hope it brought back some memories, some good memories, some times long gone. Now, with that being done, I guess we'll move into plugs, because I was kind of plugging that. MasterWalks, do you have anything you would like to plug?
No personal plugs, but I will plug the Warhammer 40K Magic decks that are coming out that sadly just got raised in price.
Oh, no, what did they
how
get
much
raised to? How much are they?
I think for a set of all 4 in the collector's editions, it's $543.
What?
That is pricey. That's collectors, though. That's a special
That is
foil on all of them.
Okay, what if I just want them
Yeah.
just like storefront? Like, is that going to be $300?
It's $50 a piece. There's 4 of them, so about $200, probably
Okay.
210.
See, that's a lot, but I feel like that's not that bad for a fully playable deck.
It's
I'm
for
not
fully
really aware.
playable decks, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, 50 for each of them. I'm
50,
saying the initial
50 for a commander deck that's fully playable for commander. I'll take it. I'm not happy, but I mean, at this point, physical card game print prices are just ridiculous to begin with, and I can't dispute that that's the price. I'm not going to pay the collector price. Fuck that. God damn.
Yeah, I don't need a special foil.
No, I don't need full. Slightly off topic, derailing the plugs a little bit, but I've been kind of keeping an eye on some of the other stuff that Magic the Gathering's putting out for the Forgotten Realms Baldur's Gate set, and it does not sound good. It does not look good. It's one of those sets where I was like, yeah, I played I picked up some of the first Forgotten Realms set, which I liked. It had some nostalgia artwork and kind of picked up on some cool ideas, like the choose one of 3 options, kind of very D&D-esque. So it was kind of fun just for that sake. But looking at the stuff here, like I had a friend show me the extended art for Baldur's Gate, and it's like, why? Like it does nothing. It literally it's the exact same art. The difference is the border is removed, which is what most extended art is. But the border doesn't show anything except black shadows, and the text box even removes the flavor text. So it's like you actually get less with that card. Why?
So power-wise, the D&D set was extremely weak.
Yeah, it looks like Baldur's Gate is going to be weak too, from the sounds of it.
It's going to be like the whole background thing is just stupid. I don't think they should do that. But besides that, it's looking more powerful than D&D, but less so than just a standard set that they would normally put out.
Mm-hmm.
Just that venturing into the dungeon, which I don't know why they decided to keep doing that because nobody liked it. The venturing into the dungeon it's just very weak all on its own, and very rarely used.
I think it was a attempt to nod properly at the idea, but it doesn't really get executed very well. And the fact that you're like, okay, that's it. Like, there's these dungeons. Like, I mean, you're going to get stuck with a couple that are going to get played. Without going into Magic, I mean, ultimately, like, it was a fun set to buy some packs and play with a friend. I wouldn't play it competitively. And from what I've seen with the Baldur's Gate, I don't plan on playing that at all or picking up any of that at all. But from what we've seen from the 40K stuff, that looks on a different level so far. That looks more juicy, if I may use a word.
You like the juice, eh?
The Blood for the Blood God art is absolutely amazing. It is ultramarines dead on the ground in the shape of the corn symbol, and it's I can't get enough of it.
We talked about it last episode. It's my favorite part of them.
Yes, it's really good.
I had not initially realized until I actually zoomed in on the art that it was a bunch of corpses, but then I realized that I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, the art is solid. The powers look good for Commander. I'm not, when I play Commander, I don't take those cards and mix them in other stuff, so I don't like look at like the possibility of what this could do in other decks. Just for Commander.
Yeah,
decks.
when I see Commander decks, I assume I'm going to be fighting other Commander decks of the same type if they come out in a set.
Yeah,
that's how I look at them.
But yeah, so 40K Magic. Do we have a release date for that?
August.
Okay,
I don't know the exact date.
Okay, 3 months away.
I mean, August is all we really know.
Save at least $200. You know, come August, you'll have to make a hard choice. Do you spend $200 on 40K Magic the Gathering, or do you spend $200 and potentially, I'm hearing now, $35 US on Horus Heresy box set? I don't know. I'm not plugging the Horus Heresy box set. I'm just saying. I think that's a early price suggestion. I don't know if that's true. I still say $295, but we'll see.
Jeff is trying to say is he's paid by Games Workshop themselves to plug it, right?
I'm not gonna. You know what? I wish. You know, these content creators.
I also wish
these content creators that all they have to do is get like, say, I do content and I'll review your product, and then Games Workshop just sends them the whole fucking box and like, here you go. Make sure you talk about it. Like, oh, surprise! That's what I do. I'll just open up this box of plastic and talk about it. And thank you for the box of plastic. Anyways, I'm not on that level of content creation, nor is that my focus. I'm all about the Horus Heresy Legions. Axel, do you have anything to plug? Or you plugged Dorn already?
I technically did, but I'll do an actual real plug here. It's Drew Lee Clark on Instagram. He does art.
Okay. Well, I'm going to plug deck slots, guys. You knew it was coming. I'm going to plug the deck slots because we're still due for deck slots. We're due for this expansion. The next balance patch is supposedly going to be fixing some issues with the Sigmund alt art voice lines, as well as delivering us some deck slots. We've got new expansion coming. But also, I'm going to plug something ahead of time. I'm not quite sure when we're going to get this done, but Axel and I were discussing this earlier this afternoon. I'm looking to do a couple episodes somewhere along the way of the Warp Chatter podcast live on Twitch and set up the podcast as best as I possibly can with Twitch Studio so that you can see either webcam, maybe some icons for whoever is available on the podcast call, but also enable a chat option. So that way it could basically be an episode where we do a Q&A with the podcast or the guest, or an Ask Me Anything. So that is something I like to do, so you can keep an eye out on the Twitch, or just in general, the community. We've got that up and coming. We'll try to put that out there so people can be aware to pop on and attend and either just view, watch it live, hear the discussion live, add your comments on, or if you have questions in advance, you want to send those to Axel or myself, we can add them to a list, and maybe we may not get to it that episode, but maybe we'll do another episode very similar where we just answer questions and give our thoughts on whatever the question might be. So that's a plug that I'd like to plug. A future up and coming podcast, Warp Chatter live on Twitch format. And if that works out really well, if it's a really good response for both the guests as well as the audience, that might be something we might do on a more regular basis. I've had a lot of people before make the suggestion for having webcams up so that you can see everybody talking. That is a little bit beyond the scope because that requires everybody who dials in to have a good webcam and have a good setup, and not everybody's got that. But at the very least, if I can make Twitch Studio have some sort of setup where it's at least somewhat interactive, that would be something that I'd like to try. And hopefully, the Eye of Terror Studios will allow it to be effective and received well. So that is what I have to plug.
See, the Warp is a fickle mistress.
That she is. You know, by the time you hear this episode, we could have already had the live chat.
Died.
Yeah, that's it. This is actually us from 50 years ago, actually making this recording call right now.
It's a shame.
All right. Well, I don't think there's anything else I've got to plug, go over, discuss. MasterWalks, thank you for taking the time to talk about the Agents of the Sigillite with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I always enjoy being on these, even when it is factions that I don't play often, like Agents. It's still fun to chit-chat and talk about the lore and everything.
It's real better. I've been on I almost said all of them. I did miss one technically.
That's true.
And I play half the faction.
That's true.
I just know, as long as you played this game, you probably touched the faction in an event, you have an opinion no matter what. That's what I like to say. You don't have to main a faction aggressively to have an opinion.
If you don't play it, you've at least probably played against it, and you can say, hey, you know what I hate? I hate when they play X card, and then I see that card and that just looks crazy. But I always try to play everything at least a few times just to get the full gauge of it. There are some cards that I play and put to bed and don't come back and touch, but I feel like you can't really, have a negative opinion until you've played it on both sides to really formulate a solid opinion, one way or the other. I mean, you can always have an opinion. Listen, you can have an opinion. It just isn't going to be one I'm going to give any credit to if you haven't done the work.
Like, it will always blow my mind when someone complains about the strengths of a faction, but then will simultaneously say they're overpowered but also underpowered.
Yeah.
If people do that,
they do.
Because they just won't have the luck that one guy had against them earlier.
Every time I play this card, this is what happens, but every time they play that card, this is what happens. Fix the game, Everguild. Maybe it's not the game. I mean, I won't deny the random element, the RNG factor. We've talked about that at length. That is something I'm not a fan of, but it is part of the game, and there's not much we can do about it. Embrace it and move on.
That's all you can do.
All right.
That is the worst.
That's it for me, guys. Thanks for making the time again, MasterWalks. And thank you for everybody for listening. Next week, we're going to be talking with the tournament organizers for the World Cup. So if you are interested in that, or even if you're not interested, but you have a morbid curiosity with tournaments, tune in. Bye!
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 The sunlight dims.
This has been another episode of the Warp Chatter Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Eternal loyalty!
Burn it! Burn it all! Well executed.